Hello friends, I'm Manoj and today's session we are going to discuss about the case study, section B of paper 4. See, there is nothing to discuss about the case study because case study is more about the practice. It's not about the theoretical teaching, because this is how case study model in the world evolved when in the Harvard University in their law department for the first time case study method was introduced, because case study method was basically introduced against, you can say, and just opposite of, or you can say to address the limitation of what is you can say the passive learning. Because mostly what happens, this is the style and the format which we are witnessing now is prevalent across the world mostly, where it's kind of passive teaching more rather than the active teaching. And there was a limitation, and that's why case study was in the 18th century. Case study method was introduced, that that passive learning was not serve the purpose. And this is then only after the law department it came to the other disciplines, whether it is engineering or MBA or every department. Now we are talking about the active learning or activity based learning completely. So the world has reached to the point where it seems, or it accepts that there is a huge limitation of the passive learning. So anyway, so what I'm going to do is, in today's session, briefly we will talk about the framework and how to approach case study and structure of answer. That's it, nothing else. And then we'll from the next session onwards we'll move to the tests. So with that, you write more and more, you discuss more and more with me. That makes more sense of the whole case study. Otherwise, it's no purpose of doing these kind of sessions for the civil services examination. Now, case study, for one thing, is very sure that you must have seen that the students are scoring 130, 140. I will not go for the 160. Students have already achieved. One student from here also that I have discussed, that he was from Rohtak, scored 149, but that is exceptional. Let's not talk about it. But generally 130, 135 and 125 is quite general. So students are getting this, despite you can say the tough year when UPSC is not rewarding paper 4. Even then students are getting 115 or 120. So it seems that 50% marks is very much possible in the even the difficult time. Difficult time in the sense when UPSC is not very favorable to any XYZ paper. So this is number one. Number two, it's basically not about simply about the problem solving and decision making. It's basically effective decision making. There is a difference between decision making and there is a difference between effective decision making, because it doesn't talk much about you can say the what factor. So case study is not about the what factor. Case study, when I say that, it's more about decision making process and the effectiveness in this. It simply means it becomes more rewarding when you talk more about how. Try to understand, there is a great shift from here to here. When you talk about what you will do, what is the problem? No, not at all. It's more about how you are going to get the goal. So how is the basically to find out the solution. So it talks more about the solution. If you are talking about any option, the question is, are you able to visualize the consequences also or not? Or you are simply writing point number one, option number 2, option number 3, option number 4, and then after explaining you are concluding that out of these 4 options I will go with this. This is the very simplest way of writing, but probably it will not help you to get or fetch marks like 120, 125 or 130, because this is the case study that helps you to get that much of marks. So this is how you have to look at it. So you have to focus more here, how rather than the what. To understand it, let me directly come to the case through which I will explain it, that what should be a better way to approach it. That's it. So let's read this question. Read along with me. Fine. And then we'll try to understand what simply means the case study approach. So it says there was conflict between the student of the upper caste You read along with me, or I come this side. So it says there was a conflict between the students of upper castes and Dalit community in a central university. The dean and the vice chancellor called a reconciliatory meeting, but it did not yield any result. The other day, violence erupted in some parts of the university and some hostel. Examinations are very close. Some students have to submit their PhD thesis or MPhil dissertation. Some politician from a certain section put pressure on the vice chancellor to take action against the agitating student. Discuss the various options available to the vice chancellor. Justify why these options. Fine. Let me come in now. It appears to be a very situation which we have witnessed in the campuses, and from there only I picked and reframed it. So it says, what are the options here? So the first thing first comes, that what is the option? Number one, the option is basically to call police. Fine. As you can say, violence is already erupted. Do we want to talk to the politician? Because here it appears that some politician from certain section put pressure, in the sense there is an involvement of or influence. Then you think that here I may postpone the exam, because in this you can say examination is very close. So in this environment, examination is not possible. Or you can say suspend students or leaders, those who are, you can say, conflict between the student. This is a conflict. Right. So when you say option 1, 2, 3, 4, these are the apparent problem which appears. And so you may, you can say, find out solutions in and around this. So if you go call police, politician, examination, etc., or let's say you can say that I will talk to the students. Fine. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It may come to the mind for any student that call police, politicians, examination, students, etc. But I say no. Rethink about it. Just rethink about it. The question now here, what I want to ask here is, my next question to you, when it says, question 6, discuss various options available to the vice chancellor. You may give some more suggestions. But here what I want to ask here is, what is the problem in this case? Number one. And what is your objective? So let's not talk about the problem in very detail, but basically about the problem so that you can arrive to a solution. So let's discuss more about the how, the solution, where you want to reach objective, what you want to achieve in this case. So you say that we want to you can say that this agitation, students should not agitate, or you can say a kind of peace in the campus. So any vice chancellor will seek the same. It's no unique about it. So the question is, if you look at, if this is the objective, then again evaluate the various options. If to restore the peace, to restore peace in campus, if this is your motto, this is the goal that you want to achieve, this is the final objective, then if you start looking this towards this, call police, talk to the politician, postpone exam, talk to the students. Do you think that these are the options which will help you to restore the peace in the campus? The campus? Probably not. Probably not. Because when you say restore the peace in campus, etc., and then at the same time you are talking about the call the police, politician, postpone the exam, probably it will not serve the purpose. And so if you look at, there is a mismatch. The way you start thinking for the options, and then you are going for a final conclusion. Here option does not mean that you give 3 or 4 options which is completely not compatible or you can say incorrect or not so effective, and then you pick one out of it and you write that out of these 4 this is the best. It may be, but the question is not here about number of options. I repeat my sentence, it's not about number of options. It's basically about the 3 things. It's basically about 3 things. So 3 things you have to align in your answer. Number 1, the problem. Number 2, the objective you want to achieve, and the process you follow. I repeat my sentence. Problem, objective, and the process you follow. And here, while processing, you can say assessing the process or the alternatives or the options, you have to think from the perspective of the effectiveness, limitations, constraints, etc. This is what is the whole idea, basically, to sync these 3 things or align these 3 things in your answer. This is what basically is writing a case study answer. It's not simply about the option, because it's a completely mismatch. The goal is restore peace in campus, because in any case, it's not written what is the option available to you. Justify this option. But option for what? Option to achieve certain goal. The goal is very clear in any case, any vice chancellor, whether you are on that chair or I am on that chair or somebody else. The question is, in any case, the goal has to be undisputed. There is no second thought about this, that in any case, the final goal has to be to restore the peace in the campus. Now the question is how? If then you start evaluating, then you will find no, it's not very effective way. These are also decisions. These are also options, but probably this is not a very effective option which helps to some. It's not very aligned by opting for these options. These are not aligned with the objective that you want to achieve. Not at all. Not at all. So this is something that you have to take care of in this. The point number one. Similarly, if you look at the another case, so you look at the another case. You just read along with me. So it says, you are a district collector, a 7-year-old boy has been killed in a school. Parents are angry and protesting. They have blocked the traffic and want speedy action. Parents are scared as it happened during the school hours. They also want tough action against school administration. Few parents don't want to send their children to same school. They tried admission in different schools, but all of them have been denied admissions. Now few parents seek help from administration for admission of their children at different places. They don't want to send their children to the same school where a boy has been killed. It is harming their children's study as examination is approaching. What are the options before you as district collector to address the concern of the parents? Fine. Again, this has happened in one school. I have framed this case from there itself. Very unfortunate case. But then again, as a district collector, what are the options? So they have blocked the traffic. Number one, a 7-year-old boy has been killed. So this is number one. This is number two. So different schools denied admission. 3. Different they don't want to send their children to the same school. Number 4, examination is approaching. Number 4. Number 5. Number 5. Now again, if I ask what are the options, because it's very clear what are the options before you as a district collector, then what you will do. So you may say that take strict action against a school, clear the jam or the traffic, not jam, rather clear the traffic, help parents to get admission in other school, take more security measures, take more security measures, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So it says strict action against the school management, clear the traffic, parents block the traffic, then help parents to get their children admitted in other schools, or you can say postpone the examination, and so many options are there. Again, I have a question. The question is very simple. What is the problem in this case? Number 2, how you want to solve it, the process you will follow. Again, I am saying, say the same question. I am putting the same question. What I put to you before this case or the problem statement. This is a problem statement. This is a typical problem statement. Fine. So what you do here? So the point which I am trying to raise here, that never ever try to get trapped in or try to find the problem which is very narrowly. Don't define problem narrowly. Not at all. Try to understand it. The moment you commit mistake here, and if you are not very clear about the objective or the goal you want to achieve, in between whatever you do, it's not aligned. It's not the following, you can say, a good process. It's a random. So randomly a thought is coming to you, and then you are writing it, good, bad, right, wrong, demerit, merit, and demerit. The whole process is not aligned. Start from identifying the problem and going to a solution which is more effective in the given scenario. I repeat my sentence: identifying the problem and align the whole process and get the more effective solution. To get the objective which is more effective. So the question is here, then what to do here? Then in this case, what to do? Here the goal is basically that if you look at this scenario, then they're not necessarily that in any problem statement, the problem is apparent. It sometimes happens that in the problem statement, you are hooked, which is apparent, but the real problem is something else. Something else. So for example, here the problem, you can say the problem happened this, but the real issue here is basically to restore the confidence and the trust. To restore the confidence in the parents. To restore the trust. If this is the objective, it's not a problem, it's an objective. Then the question is here that how you are going to do. Because again, if the question is to restore the confidence in the mind of the parents, then probably these are not very, you can say, effective. In case, strict action, lekin yahan pe against whom? So, what ideally you should think like to restore, number 1, that file a FIR and set a strict deadline for the investigation. Declare that this is the deadline that in which we will solve the case. Because do understand one thing. What is the objective? To restore the confidence. Restoring the confidence will not come merely by saying anything. You have to make everything visible, demonstrate. It's very quick. For example, the next point, you will call a parent, school management and civil administration meeting. Number 3, that you take security measures to deploy CCTV, ask you can say that what school can do to avoid such incident in the future. Now, when I am saying these kind of things, so why? Because what is the objective before you? And how it linked to the problem? And what process you follow in between? What process you follow in between? This is what is basically the way to tackle the case study method. So when we say case study method, basically case study handling the case study demands 4 things. 4 things. Whenever you read any problem statement or the case, you need to identify 4 things. These are the 4 things. So the first thing first, you need to identify what is the problem. In any case, because it's a problem statement, you have to identify the problem. Number 2, who are the stakeholders, or what is the role obligation? Stakeholder. The third and the important aspect is basically to identify the constraints. I will come to how to write a structuring of the answer also. But before that, this is a third constraint. And fourth is objective or goal you want to achieve. So in any case, when you are going to write main examination, make sure that in 10 to 12 minutes, maximum 12 minutes, you solve a case. Until unless you solve a case study in 12 minutes, you cannot complete the paper with the quality. Because if you start with the section B, usually the first question itself consumes your 20 minutes. And even if the first 2 questions consumes 35 to 37 minutes, your confidence starts sinking. And then you try to, you can say, run against the time and complete the paper, whatever it comes to you. And then from there onwards, you start compromising with the quality. That you have to take care. You will have to take care. And so you can say the practice in such a way that whatever it comes, that in 10 to 12 minutes, you are able to solve the case. How you will do so? You will do so, number 1, while studying the problem statement, you are marking these 4 things. You are marking these 4 things in the question, that these are the 4 things. In and around every case study, or the answer of the case study is developed around these things only. Other aspects are also to improve the quality of the answer. That is a different thing that we will discuss. But here are the 4 things around which you frame your answer. So the problem, find a stakeholder. A stakeholder is very, very important, because not because the way you write. A stakeholder actually gives every clue. Because whenever you identify the stakeholder, always try to identify the interest. Whose interest lies where? If you identify the interest, you will never ever stuck in thinking and getting options. Because when you map a stakeholder and map their interest, actually you start getting the options, alternatives. From different stakeholders' point, you start according to their interests, stakeholders' interest, you started thinking around their interest and you start getting the options number 1, 2, 3, alternative number 1, 2, 3, 4. Because this is what consumes time. The moment you start thinking, but from where you will get clue? You will get clue from 3 things. Number 1, the stakeholder mapping. Number 2, constraint. If you identify the constraint, this is probably the one of the most challenging tasks, because this is where your answers become more practical, pragmatic and effective. Ethics paper, it does not mean only talk or make a high moral ground in the answer writing. No. It's not like that. It's never the case. So always you have to identify constraint. Constraint is the bracket in which you take decision and then it becomes pragmatic. Practical. Practical does not mean unethical. It's within the limit. That is what the practical. And so you have to identify the constraints. And then finally the objective or the goal. Objective or the goal. Now the next point is how to develop answer. A structure. A structure of the case. Now if you look at the structure of the case, then it's basically the number 1 is about the introduction. Introduction is basically about capturing the essence of the topic. Capturing the essence of the topic. So you are simply capturing the essence of the topic. And that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. So just 2-3 sentences about the crux of the story. If it is related to the child labor and you want to talk something beyond that ILO report says like this, you are free to do so. But always try to keep it more close and relevant according to the problem statement. So this is a introduction. Then UPSC sometimes ask what are the ethical issues involved in the case. Sometimes ask what are the ethical dilemma. There is a difference between ethical issue and ethical dilemma. Ethical dilemma happens when there is a value conflict. Value conflict. So the way you write ethics versus law or morality versus law versus, no, never ever write. I repeat. Never ever write. Make a sentence which is complete and self-explanatory. It's more meaningful sentence. By writing short or you can say the symbolic way to present it will not serve the purpose. You are likely to be penalized for that. So make anything which is self-explanatory. It's a formal examination, write it formal. And anything which is more self-explanatory will reward you. Number 1. Number 2, whenever there are ethical issue and dilemma, it does not mean you will write there are 5 issues or 5 ethical dilemma. No. Simply 1 paragraph is enough. That these are the value conflicts and this is because of why. That's it. These are the ethical issues and this is why it is an ethical issue. That's it. A small, beautiful, clear paragraph. That's it. So here it's about if UPSC asks to do so. If not, then avoid it. Fine. So there are 2 ways. UPSC may ask, UPSC may not. Avoid it. Then third comes the stakeholder. Here a stakeholder, you generally write a stakeholder like this. No, please don't do so. A stakeholder is basically who are the stakeholder and write 1 sentence, not more than that, why you consider someone as a stakeholder. This is a stakeholder because of this. That's 1 sentence. 1 sentence. So with that from start to finish, there is a flow, complete flow in your answer. Now, the most important thing is here that you are going to be rewarded. This is, I call it the first block A, where you are basically talking about the introduction, issues, stakeholder. And third is basically when you are talking about the choices. You are talking about more about how. So now you come to the how. Now in how, number 1, make choices which helps to solve one or other part of the problem. So here, whatever you do, it has to be your solution seeking approach. The second aspect about the merit and demerit, when UPSC asks, merit simply means any alternative and option is going to help you to solve one or other aspect of the problem. And limitation is the constraint, administrative limitations, resource crunch, etc. or you may foresee the consequences. That may be the demerit. And the third most important aspect, whenever you write, you try to justify your position. For justification, you may talk in terms of current affairs, you may talk about the law, you may talk about the constitution, you may talk about the thinker philosopher, but it has to be very, very crisp, very direct. Because here you are not going to write much. And you have to, there is no need to write much because you have to complete the paper also. It's very, very important for you to understand that you have to complete the paper also. So here, and not necessarily that you have to write, you can say this way, you have to follow that one extreme option, another extreme option, and in between you are writing one option which is more correct. So don't follow this approach. Think for the options which is worth considering. I repeat, think for the option which is worth considering. If you start thinking like, okay, these are the 10 options, and out of these, 8 is not worth considering, why you have considered it? There must be some element of the merit into it because of which you have considered. I repeat, there are some element of merit in the option because of which you have considered. Otherwise, there would be some 20-25 options. But that is not the purpose, and this is not the way you solve case study, because it's all about finding effective decision. So this is a way, and then comes the conclusion. In UPSC, you will find there are 3 ways they are asking the questions. What are the options? Evaluate the best option of it. This is one way UPSC asks question. Another way is UPSC doesn't ask at all what is the best or not. Third is basically it says what are the course of action you will follow. Fine. So if there are 3 ways, if UPSC has not asked anything, what are the option? Evaluate merit and demerit, that's it. Then after evaluating and merit and demerit, it's up to you that how you conclude. Whether it is merging the options, one option, another option, that's it, nothing else. So it all depends upon you to you can say, to decide about it. Nothing else. Second option, when says UPSC asks this question that what is the best option available among the various options, then actually you have to pick one and compare with the rest. So here conclusion is going to be little bit in detail because UPSC is asking or frame the question in such a way that it wants that after getting 2-3 options which you are picking and why you think that this B is better than A, C and D. Why out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 is better than 1, 2, 4. So why 3 is better than 1, 2, why factor you have to capture in the conclusion if they ask this. This is where you get 1 or 2 marks edge. And third is course of action. Course of action is basically the steps and the order that you are going to follow. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is what the course of action is. So be little bit careful about the structure that you follow. A structure you follow. So this is something which is very elementary and basic that you have to understand. And then comes another aspect, some hidden aspect of, you can say, or certain things which basically students used to ignore sometimes. Fine. So you see this hidden aspect of the decision making where you people commit mistake and what are the things that you should avoid and keep focus on. So decision making is a multifaceted, socially constructed human activity that is often non-rational, non-linear. Sometimes we are not rational, not sometimes, often. We don't think, sit and think objectively. Rather, we are more driven by the emotions, feeling, etc. Fine. So the question is here, the first thing first, I say that how to read a problem statement. If you want to write your answer within 10 to 12 minutes, which everybody wants to finish the paper within the time, then the first thing first you need to practice, take the previous question paper and practice about the reading, not the solving. Reading, how to read problem statement, how to read problem statement. Because this is how you are going to you can say, get the time. You can bring quality into your answer. Fine. So the first thing first, the objective. If you don't know where you are going, you just might end up somewhere else. The question is here that there are 5 basic, you can say, steps in identifying the objective. 5 basic steps here. So obviously here you will find that brainstorm things that matters. Because in every case you will find there are so many things written, but everything doesn't matter. So things that matter. State the objective very clearly. Separate means and end. Create an objective hierarchy. So let's say you have 2 or 3 goals which you want to achieve in one case itself. That in the previous case, where a 7-year-old boy killed, and then you have 2-3 objectives. Then it's very important to create the hierarchy of the objective. That you should know that this is the first thing that I have to achieve. And then this is the second that you have to achieve. It's not about long term, short term. It's about the short term. It's about the now. It's about the urgency. But you need to be very clear that how do you set the objective? In one case, there may be 3 objectives that you want to achieve. So you need to be very clear that this is going to be the hierarchy, and test your objective to make sure that they are useful. In the sense, test your objective. That why you want to achieve. Why you want to achieve. So the way you do your brainstorming in the case study, in essay, the similar way, you please give 5-10 minutes on regular basis to read 2 or 3 case studies of the previous S paper and start, you can say, doing a practice, and that is how to read a problem statement. How to read a problem statement. Because if you are able to create a frame in 3 to 4 minutes, I repeat, if you are able to create a complete framework in 3 to 4 minutes that, okay, fine, this is what the case is all about, and here are the 4 components which I am going to deal with, then your task becomes quite easier and the chances of deviation is very less. You are very focused, direct, etc. No, I am coming with you know very well that, okay, fine, this is what I am going to do. I am coming with certain examples now. Another point which I would like to say, that while correcting the copies and interacting with the students, what I have realized, there are certain mental blocks. There are certain mental blocks. What are the mental blocks? That often you people define the problem very narrowly. Often you people define problem very narrowly. So you need to be a little bit careful about it. Attacking the symptom and not the real. Attacking symptom, not the real problem. Attacking symptom, not the real problem. Assuming there is one and only one right answer. So you are writing some 3 or 4 option which is not worth considering, and then only one answer, and you are focusing in on that only. For example, after reading a case, something comes to your mind, and throughout the case you want to you can say deal with that option alone. It's very, very important for you. Just think over it. You generally the case, whenever the case comes to you, you read and you are hooked. You read the case and you are hooked. Without analyzing the problem statement properly, you are hooked that what you want to do, and then you start doing. You are hooked. You are completely hooked. I am coming with these certain examples. You let me finish first, and then I will help you to understand this through certain examples. Similarly, you can say distracted with the mental dazzle, irrelevant information. There are cases where some irrelevant informations are there and you have already stuck into. Great. Sometimes students are getting frustrated by lack of success, in the sense you are not getting very good options. And so you feel frustrated about it. And that's why I say that whenever it happens, you think around the objective, constraints, and the stakeholders' interest. You will get some clue, some reference point which keeps your flow going writing. It will help you to completely move. and being anxious to finish. Obviously, I can understand this is a very genuine problem because you don't have time, so you want to finish, and that's okay. So you need to be anxious, but the question is one and only one, and that how you are going to practice so that you can finish in 10 to 12 minutes. Fine. Let's come back to again the case study. Again, the case study. Fine. So you see this question. When I talk to you about these mental blocks, so allow me to help you to understand in a better way through certain illustration. You read this case. This case, I have taken this case from UPSC's previous paper. Fine, you read this case along with me, little bit longer, but then it's okay how UPSC has designed. So it's a very lengthy. You are young, aspiring and sincere employee in the government office working as an assistant to the director, assistant to the director of your department. Since you have joined recently, you need to learn and progress. Luckily, your superior is very kind and ready to train you for your job. He is very intelligent and well-informed person, having knowledge of the various departments. In short, you respect your boss and are looking forward to learning a lot from him. Since you have a good tuning with the boss, he started depending on you. One day, due to ill health, he invited you to his place to finish some urgent work. You reached his house before you could ring the bell. You heard shouting noise. You waited for a while. While entering the house, the boss greeted you and explained the work, but you were constantly disturbed by crying of a woman. At last, you inquired with the boss, but his answer did not satisfy you. The next day, you are compelled to inquire further in the office and found that his behavior is very bad at home with his wife. He also beats up his wife. His wife is not well educated and is a simple woman in comparison to her husband. You see that though your boss is a nice person in the office, he is engaged in the domestic violence at home. In such scenario, you are left with the following option. Analyze each option with the consequences. Fine, this is a case or this is a problem statement which UPSC has asked probably in 2017 or 18, something like that. Fine. Now what it says, the last point, it says your innovation approach towards the situation. Innovation approach. Fine. So suppose if say just ignore thinking, report to the case appropriate authority, innovation solution. So innovation solution, you cannot think of the innovation solution unless you are very clear here about the stakeholder and their interest, about the constraints, and more important, about the objective. What is the objective you want in this case? Accordingly, you will think for the innovative options. Accordingly, you will think for the options, alternative, etc. For example, if you think that it's domestic violence case of the domestic violence and zero tolerance, then obviously you will think like this. Your options will come accordingly. If you think that the right of the woman or the wife should be protected, then accordingly you will think. But suppose if you think that let's give relationship a chance. Let's give relationship a chance. Because you must have seen in the various cases, unless there is a very gruesome criminal case, often even court gives a time for the reconciliation, for thinking. बहुत सारे डिवोर्स के केस में भी आपने देखा होगा, they give you can say the counseling options. They give time to rethink. So the question is here, what is your objective? What you want in this case? So suppose if you think that let's give relationship a chance, then accordingly you will have to understand that what could be the more effective and persuasive method which you are going to follow, but there is an introspection and in your boss, and then you can give your effort to bring both of them a little bit closer and to live a very dignified life. So the point which I'm trying to say is, this is how actually the mental block works. If you think in this case that there is only one right option, that is the police, then accordingly you will think. If you have failed to define the problem narrowly, accordingly you will write your answer. And this is why I pointed out certain mental blocks. That mental blocks is very, very important, that you will have to keep in mind while answering the questions. So these are certain things that you have to keep in mind. The rest, as far as case studies is concerned, you know, I know, everyone knows, it's basically about practice and how quick you are able to understand that these are the framework in and around which you have to practice more and more. So I'm leaving, you can say, this session here with the expectation that you will be very punctual in terms of giving time to or practice the first thing first, that how to read a problem statement, and creating a framework within 3-4 minutes, that yes, the framework is very clear to you, and then in the 7-8 minutes you are going to write the case. So these are the two components that you have to practice simultaneously. Or you can say the first few days you can give time to you can say previous year's questions, just to develop the framework, and then you go for the writing more and more. So it all depends upon you what method you follow. But the first thing first, it is very sure that in any case you will have to ensure that it is part of your practice to read the problem statement or developing framework in 3 to 4 minutes. If you are doing so, your major task is done. So with this point I am leaving, and with the expectation that you will practice, and then the tests you will write more and more, and discussion with more. So this is all about today's session. Thank you.